I'm going to bring up Maria here in a moment. And there's a couple reasons I wanted to have Maria up. Number one, health is a really, really important part of what it is that we all do, right? And being as a speaker, to be in like ultimate vitality and energy is critical. And I know for me, coming up here, the way that I take care of myself is really, really important. I mean, I wake up and I have all kinds of supplements and smoothies and drinks and raw food, and then I have my body doctor that comes up and works on me for 30 minutes, and then I get backstage and I do my breathing and my state exercises, and I do everything I need to do to come up here and show with 100% energy. And that's so important. And somebody that's helped me do that is Maria. So not only do I have my body doc, Maria helps me, she's my health coach, and I have my raw food people. I had to make sure that, most importantly, my energy and that I'm taken care of up here. And so for all of you, as much as we work as entrepreneurs, that's really important. How many people work like crazy, yeah? How many of you would like greater productivity and performance in your business because your energy is really high? Give me a passion. So all of us need to be in that peak state of performance physically, mentally, in every aspect of what it is that we're doing. So I want to bring Maria up here to talk about it because she's an expert in it. She's also my client. And also I want to show you something that she's doing with her business. It's a teaching point for you guys because she does have an online curriculum, which is really great. And her online curriculum is awesome. So you guys will want to take a look at this too. So there's a couple things you're going to get out of this. One, Maria's going to talk about health. Two, we're going to go in and take a look at her business model of what she's doing, because the things that we've done with her to help her strategically position her business, as you heard yesterday, has helped her get to a six-figure business in a very short period of time, doing that as a single mother. All right? So we're going to see a video right now. I want to show the video, but before we do that, hold on to the video. You're going to get your coaching sessions that you signed up for today, okay? So when you get tapped on the shoulder today, go for your coaching session, all right? You'll have however long the coaching session is. Not going to take too much time out of the day, but that's your time to get your one-on-one on your strategy. All right, so we're going to start doing that with a few of you today, all right? And many of you today. So everybody game when you get tapped to go out for your one-on-one session, yes? Yes. All right, so that's going to start happening here very shortly, all right? So let's play the video right now. Let's watch it, and then I'll bring Maria up.
You have a 620% increased risk of dying from conventional medicine than you do from a homicide shooting. You are prescribed drugs by your doctor. Conventional medicine is the fourth leading cause of death by properly prescribed drugs. More than 783,936 deaths are caused by conventional medicine each and every year in America. That's equivalent to one jumbo jetliner crashing every single day. They told us we'd be safe inside the system. But the healthcare industry is an endless maze of misdiagnosis, misdirection, and mishandling. They're aimed at disease and dollars. Eastern medicine has scattered our intuitive knowledge like the Tower of Babel. We've been lied to. We've been ignored, diminished, and reduced to lemmings, waiting for the end. The single most important part of life is your health. Without your health, your relationships are unfulfilled. Without it, your wealth is compromised. Without your health, nothing else really matters. This is not about being sick. It's about never being sick again, preventing you from ever becoming a statistic. What if we already had inside us all the healing required for an extraordinary life simply by listening to our bodies? What if our wealth, our joy, our happiness was already inside us yearning to come out? I know because I was diagnosed repeatedly with incurable diseases, diseases that Western medicine couldn't cure. They said there was no hope. I turned to alternative medicine. If there was hope, it was elusive, always beyond my grasp. Always there was something missing, a comprehensive and intuitive solution, not just to get better, but to prevent ever getting sick in the first place. There had to be a better way. It started with a powerful question I asked myself. If my body was responsible for my diseases, could my body also be responsible for its cure? I decided to go it alone and find the healing and prevention I knew must exist. I've devoured all the information and studied the status quo. I've explored every possible alternative and found them lacking. I've quieted the noise, asked the right questions, and discovered the solutions instead of side effects. My revolutionary approach resulted in my being fully cured of my incurable diseases. I healed myself. This is a revolution. This is pioneering work. It is the only way to change the tide. A new vision and experience of health has arrived. It seems outrageous. When the Wright brothers modeled the beauty of birds in flight to create a new reality, most thought them insane. When Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times to illuminate our future, most remarked it was impossible. When Steve Jobs decided to think differently and change the world, most found him an arrogant dreamer. My name is Maria Whalen, and I am the pioneer. Like the Wright brothers, like Thomas Edison, and like Steve Jobs, I refused the traditional path. After I recovered and began thriving, I immersed myself in all the alternatives. I trained in homeopathy, nutrition, with a new purpose. I dismantled the fragmented concept of what we used to call health. I put it back together with new knowledge, infused it with bold new ideas, and with a vivid picture of a new possibility. An empowering new mission to acknowledge and activate our own healing powers to prevent disease and live vibrantly without illness, suffering, or doubt. To be our own healers. This is a new dawn, a new awakening, a new paradigm. It's time to begin your new way of doing health today.
Welcome to the stage, Maria Whalen. Good video, huh?
Thank
Good
you.
stuff, huh? Did she hit the problem pretty well? Great job, huh?
Thank you. I actually had 2 Hollywood producers call me and heard about my mission and all that kind of stuff, and one of them did my program, so they actually offered to do that video for me. It was amazing.
Nice. Give her a round of applause. So, I just want to jump into the story. Like, tell us, jump into your story, because that was a great introduction of what you do and how you're doing it. So tell us your journey. Like, how did this all begin? How did you decide that you wanted to start a practice like this?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a long journey, so pretty much started when I was very young. I don't really remember a time not being sick since I was little. And when I think I remember even since I was 10, my uncle was my doctor at the time, growing up. And it was always, we should probably take your tonsils out. You always got sore throats. And, we should probably take this body part out. And it became kind of the story as a young girl. And as I even got a little older, when I was 13, 14, I became a boxer. I boxed professionally. I really did. I boxed competitively. I fought guys. I promise I won't hurt you now, unless I catch you eating McDonald's.
Golden arches. Yeah.
So, really, I was sick so often, but at that time, I was so physically fit and I was so athletic that it was kind of hidden behind, like you look healthy and, you should be healthy, right? Because your outside looks good, but nobody knew the inside. So I spent, many years still fighting all of those as I was young, and it just became the norm. I thought this is how it's supposed to be, and I guess I have to accept it. Then when I was 18, I met my ex-husband at the time, my husband at the time, and through that process, I just kind of kept getting sicker and sicker to the point where just before I got married when I was 20, I remember I had Epstein-Barr, and I was in bed for 2 months. I remember my mom and my sister coming over, and they literally had to pick me up out of bed. They had to lift me up to put me into my wedding dress to try it on.
And I remembered, I'm going to need that Kleenex. I asked him to bring a box up here, so you're probably going to want to bring it close by. Yeah. And I remember just thinking, God, please let me be able to walk down that aisle, like, get this better, And that really started the cascade, because it really just, the momentum after that continued and continued to get worse. So I made it. I got out of bed before the wedding, was able to do that. And then shortly after we got married, my husband was like, I want to move to California. And I lived in Arizona my whole life. So leaving my family was pretty traumatic for me. I was, at the time, I was a phlebotomist. I actually had already built a massive career by the time I was 18. And
You were a what?
a phlebotomist.
What the hell is that?
I actually worked at the largest blood bank in Arizona, so I did bone marrow, cytophoresis,
got it.
all these different
Okay.
things regarding blood. So it's actually where I learned a lot about medicine, because I was shocked how many people are on medication. And I'm only, 19 going, what's going on? And so we moved to California, and that was really stressful for me, and my health at that point just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So I had eventually gained 70 pounds. And for me, that was a big deal, going from being very athletic to very large. And, I got to the point where I just didn't even want to leave the house. I didn't want to go anywhere. It was to the point where the amount of doctors I was going to, I heard everything. I remember having to drive down to Hollywood to go see one of the most, well-known doctors that are supposed to help with some of the diseases I had accumulated. I'll tell you those in a second. And I remember being terrified. I'm like, how do people live in this freaking town? Hollywood's scary to get to drive to. And so, the first diagnoses, they came after many, many years of hearing, it's just chronic fatigue. You've got fibromyalgia. You've got PCOS. You've got this. You've got that. And it got to the point where the list was so long that I would just be like, okay, like, how many more could you possibly give me? And I remember things getting so much worse that I would go into these comas, and I was sick of going through the emergency room route into, now we got to do MRIs, and we got to do this, we got to do that. We don't know what's wrong with you. And that's, you lose a lot of hope when you hear that all the time. Well, there's nothing we can do for you. And so I remember one day my doctor sitting down with me, asking me, like, let's sit down, we need to chat. And I could tell in his body language, I'm like, okay, I haven't even done any testing for you to give me bad news yet, so what's up? And he said, you probably, we want to do some more testing, because he goes, I suspect a couple things that I think you might have. And, I think you might have leukemia. And you might have AIDS. And I was like, how the hell would I have AIDS? And I thought, oh, well, I did work in a blood bank for many years, so there was enough behind it to scare the snot out of me, and at this point, I'm like, well, I've been sick enough, so what's another diagnosis, right? And okay, so let's go. Let's do this battery of tests and more tests and more tests. And so then, it came back with all these other things. It was, you have lupus, you have Behçet's, which is a rare autoimmune disease that was partially what was responsible for my comas. And basically, Behçet's is so rare, and it's so dangerous to the sense that it can actually attack any organ in your system at any point in time. So it actually has no specific target. Okay, so I was like, cool, I'm just a walking time bomb, right? So, and then I had schwannomatosis, which is nerve tumors. I actually had one removed here before I figured this all out. And that's actually supposed to be totally debilitating. I should have nerve tumors all over my body. And the pain, if you could imagine how painful when you cut your finger where your nerves are, yeah, that was painful. So I have a pretty high threshold for pain, needless to say. So when he said to me, you probably will never be able to have children, that impacted me more than hearing leukemia or AIDS. I didn't care. Thanks. And I said, I've worked with children since I was 10, and that was my only dream. That's all I wanted. So when when they said that, I was like, I had just remembered leaving that office that day going, I really just don't care. I don't care about anything else at this point, How do you tell your husband of 10 years, I'm probably not going to be able to have children, right? So, anyway, so there's a lot around that. And I kind of sat with that for a long time, and it got to the point where I finally said, I'm really tired of all these medications. I remember the very last office visit I made. I went into this guy, a new one, and I left with 5 prescriptions, and he met with me for 5 minutes. And I was so pissed off, I walked out and I tore them up. I threw them in the garbage. And I went home, and I'm like, I can't have kids. I really just, I don't like this place. And I was really impacted by other people's sufferings growing up. I thought, gosh, I just can't stand the injustice. I had a hard time with that. Evil and corruption would just impact me so much. I'm like, who's going to stop this? Well, I'm not strong enough to make a difference. So what can I do? How can I make a difference? I got to save myself. But I just had no energy to. And I really was like, I really just don't care, So that depression got to the point for me that I said, it's not that I don't want attention. I just don't want to be here. Like, I just didn't want to be here anymore. So I conjured up a plan, and I said, I know this is really from my heart. Like, I just don't want to see suffering anymore, and I don't want to suffer anymore. So I just want to leave this planet. And I remembered I was in all those forums that I should have never been in, listening to moms talk about lupus and Behçet's and how they couldn't even get out of bed to play with their 2-year-old. So I thought, that really, I remember reading those and just being like, okay, well, you know what? Even if I could have kids, I don't want to, because I wouldn't want to be tortured laying there going, I can't even play with them, So I checked myself into a hotel, and I literally paid cash. I paid cash for 6 days in advance, put the Do Not Disturb sign up. I had all my little goodies with me that I knew would take care of me painlessly leaving the planet. And that night, I wanted it to be 6 days because I didn't want there to be any chance of me surviving this. That's how serious I was about this, okay? And I only had one person that I kind of somewhat told that I was driving there and saying goodbye, kind of. But I was really in a zone. I felt like I was walking in slow motion. And that night, before I did anything, for some reason, I decided to start in my mind saying goodbye to my family and my loved ones. And I remember I was just on my knees, and I was weeping, and I started visualizing my sister telling my nieces that I was gone. And I literally started picturing their faces, and I felt it. And I felt all their pain, of course. That's part of why I was doing what I was doing. I didn't want to feel pain. And that actually sent me into a coma. My coma actually saved my life. I woke up the next day out of my coma, and of course, you could imagine how surreal it was, right? I'm looking around going, where am I? Is this what heaven looks like? I don't know, am I still here? And and as I came to and I realized I was still here, I was really mad. You would think you'd be happy, right? No, and I always had a feisty relationship with God, and I remember just being like, really? Oh, I get it. You're not going to let me leave this place, are you? Like, I got it, right? I wasn't happy about the mission, but at that moment, you've heard a lot of people tell their stories how they get their message. My message was like, you are a warrior. You need to save your life because you have a lot of other people's lives to save. And honestly, I was not happy about it, okay? This was not one of those like angels aha moments. I was like, fine, you know, like, I get it. You're not going to let me leave this place. So you know what? I'm going to do it. And at that moment, I had lost my voice at that point. You know, before this happened, you know, I'm a pretty outspoken person. And for me, it got so stifled in my sickness. And I just I couldn't stand up for myself. I couldn't speak my voice anymore. And in that moment, you know, I felt it all come back into me. And I went, there's a problem. My body was not designed for this. This was not, people didn't hear these things 200 years ago. So I'm going to figure it out. And that's where my mission started. And I went on a crusade to figure it out. And I did. So, you know, the thing with figuring it out was, it wasn't like, oh, this great one thing, you know, the light bulb went off and I was like, that's it. Or one person did it for me. It was actually quite the opposite, because I understood, I got that the conventional medicine, you know, conventional medicine is supposed to be for emergency care and certain diagnostics, you know, and I realized, I'm like, okay, that's a sick care plan, and I'm going to figure this out naturally. So on that quest, I got excited because I would go to every practitioner. I don't even know how much money I spent, upwards of $80,000 at least dollars to figure it out, because I was on a mission. I mean, I'm Sicilian, okay? I'm on a mission. That means, like, step out of my way. I will knock you over to find it out. I bought every online program, every book you could imagine. I went to every practitioner. I went to NDs. It didn't matter what your title was. I tried everything. And I got a little bit of hope, because I'd get 10% better, 20% better. And after several years and lots of money went by, you know, it really hit me that I actually lost a little bit more hope than I did before, because I said, this is so complicated. Like, what the heck is this all about? What's going on? Why do I have to fly to a clinic? Why do I have to go to 1,000 different people? I was kind of really sick of sitting in the first office visit and telling my history again for the next 10,000 time, right? And I was like, you know, I really wish all these people could maybe I'll invite them all over for dinner. I literally thought this. I'm going to invite all 100 practitioners over for dinner and say, could you guys just all talk about me and put one plan together for me? Because this is crazy. And while I'm a little bit better, I'm still not better, right? I'm still not 100%. I'm still not living the way I should be living. This should be done. And so that really sent me more on a quest than anything else. And I said, somebody needs to bridge the gap here. And I understand it. It's not any of these people's fault. It's the way the system has evolved, right? Conventional medicine is the newest form of medicine. It's the baby in the world, right? It's only been around for less than 100 years. So I said, you know, somebody's got to bridge that gap, because alternative medicine has tried to fit into the same mold, and everybody's chasing these ailments. And that's not what we need to be doing, because that is a rat race, right? It was a bigger hamster wheel for me than anything else. So that was my mission. It was, you know, somebody's got to put this all together, and they got to put it together in a way that is conducive to our lifestyle now, today, in this current environment and our culture. Does that make sense? Right? We got a problem. So that was the big thing for me. It was, I got to figure this out. So here's how I figured it out.
Tell us.
Yeah. So I said, I'm going to kind of step back from the thousands of modalities and things I've bought and listened to, and I'm going to extrapolate the common denominator from all of them. So I started doing that, and I went into intensive study, I mean, you know, I looked like a mad scientist for a long time. And I said, you know, the funny thing is every single person, every single subject, when you whittle it down, they all talk about 5 things. Those 5 things are the buttons that every body needs to heal, and it heals from. It doesn't just heal from that place, but it actually prevents itself from anything at that place as well. So when I did that, it was like I took this craziness up here, boiled it down, and went, and I started testing it out, right? I'd listen to everybody. I'd go, oh, you're hitting that one, you're hitting that one, you're hitting that one. And that was the big light bulb for me. So I went back, I worked from that, I reverse engineered it, which is no different than building a house from the foundation. I know, crazy concept. And I went back to those things, and that's when I healed myself. Gone. Nothing. Done. My doctors used to say, don't even walk within 10 feet of people that are sick, because you'll get sick. That's the paradigm I lived in for so long.
And when you healed yourself, you had a daughter.
I did, and she's 8.
And you never get sick.
Nope. And, I look back and I go, well, thank God I did that, because as I was on this mission and I started doing school, I look back on what I just did in the last 7 years. I went through a hellacious divorce, and my daughter was only 18 months old. And I had already started homeopathic school. So I was the only homeopath pretty much in the world that's had an acute care practice, which is like an emergency room doctor, right? I was on call 24/7. I was full-time pre-med student, and I had my daughter by myself. And I remember many nights of her sleeping on my lap while I'm writing papers and taking tests, and I slept probably 3 hours a night for a good 5 years. And I could have never done that, ever before. Run a practice all day long, school all night long, and take care of Rihanna and do all that. So it's such a different paradigm to live on the other side of it, not just never being sick. Because honestly, that's where people think. They think this is about like, oh, if you're sick, let me tell you how to get better. It's not about that. And this is my mission so much bigger than that. For me, it was, I want to be in control of my health 100%. I don't want to be on either of these systems. One's a very dependent system, and the other one's a very codependent system. I want an independent system. I want to know how to heal myself. And I also want full assurance that I'm not going to be a statistic anymore. I don't ever want to sit in front of a doctor hearing what I have again. And you can't just say that out of like a hopeful, wishful thinking. You actually have to know it. And that's the cool thing now. Like, I know that. Like, you literally could drop me in a third world country and I'm not scared of like anything.
So tell us, because when you started to mention the 5 things, everybody started to get their pens up to write.
I'm going to tell you.
Tell us the 5 things, and then I want to hear some other people that you're working with.
Okay, cool. So here's the 5 things. You ready? All right. So it's hormones, DNA, immune system, your physical structure, your spine, bones, and your mental, emotional component. It's like an accordion, though. There's a lot of things underneath each one of those, right? That's a lot. So that's your foundation. Bless you.
So from a time perspective, can you share just a little bit on each one of those?
I have something planned for that after that'll make it a lot easier for everybody.
Perfect. So let's do this. All of you will hear about that afterwards. I want to hear about some of the other people that you've worked with.
Sure.
And share with us some of the people that you've worked with.
Cool.
Pick one. Pick a couple.
Okay. So I want to say this first. It's not me who does this. It's your body who does this, okay? So I'm not healing people. I'm teaching them how to heal themselves. I just want to set that stage right up front, okay? So when I hear other people have these victories, that's the best thing in the world. I'll start with Kate, and I'm gonna tell you one thing about Kate that's different is I never chase people down. Kate's one that I did, and you'll understand why. And because I really believe everybody has to choose to be here, you have to choose to fight for your own health. In this case, she needed me to stand in the divide for her. So Kate is somebody, I had a mutual friend on Facebook. I watched her story for about a year of she was a nurse, a very high-level nurse, and she had cancer. She had several types of cancers. So I knew she was going through chemo. I know she was going through the whole gamut. And she had 2 little boys, very young. And I knew her husband was killed in the Iraq war. And so I knew she was a single mom. Of course, that was a heartstring for me. And so she would keep telling her story, and I remember hearing the suffering, after chemo. hugging the toilet and losing my hair and, the whole game. She had so many body parts removed. And I saw her gradually losing hope. And to the point where she was literally every post was kind of saying goodbye to people and getting things in order. And I remember I was in Cabo on vacation, and I happened to have my laptop up, and I was checking Facebook, and I saw the post that said, well, they just sent me home to hospice and gave me 2 weeks to live. And she was trying to be positive and say, my aunt's going to take care of my boys. And I'm okay, everybody. I'll be all right, don't worry about me. And of course, me, I'm like, hell no, you're going nowhere. I don't care what it takes, we're doing something. Now, mind you, my mutual friend had been trying to ask her to contact me for several months. And she was like, you know what, I got it covered. I'm a nurse, I know, blah, blah, blah. And so I called that mutual friend and I said, get her on the phone right now. Called her, had a conversation, and at that point she said, I'll do whatever you say, Maria. I said, the first thing you have to be willing to do, I had to throw a little Yoda in there. I said, you must be willing to unlearn everything you've learned, because that's going to be the hardest thing for you. Not anything I'm going to tell you to do, but that piece. She's very poor, lives in a very remote area, and we actually threw together a fundraiser for her overnight, raised a great amount of money for her. It actually wasn't that much, just enough. That's all I need, just enough. A year later, she's posting on Christmas. She posted a picture of her and her boys saying, wow, never thought I would get to have this Christmas with my boys. She just posted one for Easter. Every time I see it, I'm like, freaking warrior, like she's amazing. And her actual website is 2 weeks to live. So, so that's an extreme case. And I'm, my goal is really to hopefully get people before they're at that place. That would be great, because it's a heck of a lot harder, okay? And a lot more expensive. So, That's
great. Give us one more quickly, and then I want to get into your surprise.
Okay. Yep. Can I do 2 quick ones?
2 quick ones.
Okay.
2 quick ones, 90 seconds.
Yeah. So one that I love is Shirley, who is 65, came to me and said, I just reunited with the love of my life. I want to be here longer. I want to feel vitality. She wasn't totally sick. And I love that. And then she calls back, I had heart surgery a long time ago. So off all your meds, the whole thing. Those are the kind of stories I really love, because those are the people who are choosing to live and, not waiting until it's too late. So, and then I want to highlight Donna, because Donna and Nick did my program because they said, you know what, we want to get off the grid. We don't want to spend a bunch of money on health insurance. We'd rather have a health assurance plan. And they did that, and Donna's results are hilarious, because everybody's been telling her, you look so much younger. Have you guys seen her? She is 52, and I had permission to say that. She's 52, and she looks like she's freaking 20. She's beautiful. Look at her. So the biggest takeaway from that is you don't have to have the same ailments I did. This is the biggest thing, and this is the biggest game changer. Your body doesn't give a snot what ailment you have, okay? Whatever your body can create, your body can take care of. So it's those 5 foundational things. It applies to everybody, and that's a hard thing for people to get, because we're so fragmented into thinking, let's chase these ailments. You don't need to do that. Stop chasing ailments. Get to that foundation, your body will take care of it. We're all sitting here in this amazing machine that the smartest human being on the planet still can't figure out. Your body knows what to do. You just got to give it the right things. You got to know those buttons to turn on.
And before we get into your surprise, the thing that you haven't seen, which we don't have time to show, is she has a detailed, comprehensive program online that just has all the steps, all the exact things to do. It's legit. And Maria's on, calls, acute calls with people all day long. So you're dealing with, I don't know how many hundreds of people and thousands of people that you've worked with, but it's a lot. So go into your surprise and tell them what they can,
I need
what
that
the surprise
paper over
is.
there. That one right there. So, so one of my biggest things that I see, I love entrepreneurs because I'm one, and I feel like at a point we're a certain type of community, right? And we're all pretty independent, want to keep our business, our investment, all that kind of stuff. And it is my pet peeve to see entrepreneurs get a diagnosis unexpectedly. So I'm very passionate about getting the message of prevention out. I call it my secret mission, because nobody likes to hear the word prevention, and we all go, oh yeah, I'm good. I work out, I eat healthy, and it's not about any of that. You have to know what's underneath here like a mechanic knows a car. And if you don't, you are just, you're just sitting tight, right? You're just a sitting duck. You don't want to be that. You need to know, and your health needs to be your very first priority. So, as a family of entrepreneurs, I want to encourage all of you we're going to do a little contest, okay? So you all had a little piece of paper on your desk that looks like this. There are 3 colors, and you guys, that color is your little family for today. Your goal with each other is to fill out that form that we have at my booth, and that form is, you don't even realize what's built into that form, but my coaches know my protocol inside and out. And each one of them, by the way, you should ask them their stories, because they're all people who had cancer, all that kind of stuff, right? So they had their own stories. But they can look at that and literally tell you what pieces of those 5 foundations might be missing for you that you want to focus on by that form, okay? So that information could save your life. So it's really important, but we're going to do this so that your team needs to encourage each other. So whatever team turns in the most forms, we're going to be doing a drawing, and one person's going to get a free ride through my program. And the second runner-up team who turns in the most forms, we're going to be drawing and giving away some really fun prizes, fun items. So enhance your libido naturally kind of stuff. Energy. Yeah. Exactly.
Way to go.
Yeah.
That's another benefit of Coaching Leadership Academy. Here you go.
So, my thing is, let's stop this cordial hypocrisy and afraid of offending each other. Let's give a crap about each other's lives. And we care about your business. Let's care about each other's lives. So your goal is to get everybody on your team to go get their booty out there and get their form in. And don't just turn the form in, but actually talk to the coaches. Because
so do
they
they
can
fill it
help
out
you.
first? Is that step 1? They got to fill it out?
Yeah, most of you have already filled it out. They already have it, so just make sure you fill out this card, because this card's what's going to be in the drawing. The coaches will help you. They'll make sure if you already turned in the form. If you want to talk to them then, they still have your forms. They can pull it out and talk with you there, okay? So I want to walk away knowing I looked at every one of your faces, and you're all protected. Your business is protected. Don't work your ass off to build your business and not get to enjoy it, okay?
Cool. Give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
Nice.